The council chamber was silent. Too silent. Ambassador Choi Dae-hyun stood at the center of the massive circular room, surrounded by representatives from 43 different species. Above him, the dome displayed the star maps of known space. Red markers indicated Vokrim conquest. There were too many red markers. The Vokrim delegate, a creature named Grethmar, rose from his seat. He was large, covered in dark scales with 4 arms and eyes that glowed like hot coals. His voice boomed through the chamber. The Empire has spoken. Humanity will surrender all colonies. Humanity will accept Vokrim rule. Humanity has 30 days to comply. Grethmar's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. Or we will take what we want by force. The other delegates whispered among themselves. The Kelthans, who looked like tall blue birds, ruffled their feathers nervously. The Draviks, slug-like beings in mechanical suits, turned their eye stalks toward Dae-hyun. Everyone wanted to see how humanity would respond. Dae-hyun remained calm. He had expected this. Earth's intelligence networks had warned him 3 weeks ago that the Vokrim were planning this move. He straightened his uniform and looked directly at Grethmar. The Vokrim Empire has made its position clear, Dae-hyun said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the chamber. Humanity rejects your demands. We will not surrender. We will not bow, Grethmar laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. You are fools. We have conquered 40 systems. We have crushed species that were stronger than you. We have 800 ships waiting at the terminus gate. What can humanity do? Dae-hyun smiled slightly. We will send an appropriate response. The council erupted in noise. The Kelthans squawked in alarm. The Draviks made bubbling sounds of concern. Even the normally silent Vesh crystalline beings that communicated through light flashed rapid patterns of worry. Council Speaker Velthar, an ancient being that looked like a floating mass of tentacles, raised one appendage for silence. Ambassador Dae-hyun, please clarify. The Vokrim have deployed their 3rd Imperial Fleet. Intelligence reports confirm 847 warships. How many ships will humanity send? Dae-hyun looked around the chamber. He met the eyes of every delegate who would look at him. Then he spoke clearly. 1 ship. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Grethmar began laughing again, louder this time. Other delegates joined in. Not all of them were laughing at humanity. Some were laughing nervously the way people laugh when they don't know what else to do. 1 ship, Grethmar roared. Humanity sends 1 ship against our armada. This is not war. This is suicide. This is entertainment. Dae-hyun didn't react. He had delivered Earth's message. Now he simply waited. Velthar spoke again. Ambassador, I must ask, is humanity surrendering? Is this 1 ship carrying diplomats to negotiate terms? No, Dae-hyun said. The ship carries weapons. The ship carries our answer. The ship carries everything the Vokrim Empire needs to understand about humanity. Madness, muttered one of the Draviks delegates. The council session ended badly. Dae-hyun returned to his quarters and immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Kang Mira's face appeared on the screen. She was in her 60s, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. How did they take it? Mira asked. Exactly as we predicted. They think we're insane or desperate. Mira nodded slowly. Good, let them think that. Is Captain Doyon ready? The Indomitable left orbit 2 hours ago. He should reach the terminus gate in 6 days. And the crew? All volunteers. All veterans. They know what they're doing. Mira was quiet for a moment. Dae-hyun, are we sure about this? Once the shooting starts, there's no going back. The galaxy will see what we're capable of. Dae-hyun looked at the star map on his wall. The red markers seemed to glow in the dim light. We've been hiding our strength for 60 years. We've been playing nice. We've followed their rules. And what happened? The Vokrim saw weakness. They saw prey. Someone was going to test us eventually. Better it happens now on our terms. The cost? I know. But if we back down now, every empire in the galaxy will think humanity is easy prey. We'll spend the next 100 years fighting off invasions. This ends now. This ends with 1 ship, Mira sighed. I hope Doyon is ready. He's ready. Trust me. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, beings watch their news broadcasts. The story of humanity's 1-ship response spread like wildfire. It was the joke of the day. Comedy shows made fun of human stupidity. Military analysts gave the human ship less than an hour once battle began. On the Vokrim flagship, Overlord Grethmar gathered his commanders. They stood in the war room, surrounded by holographic displays of their fleet. 847 ships, enough firepower to crack planets, enough soldiers to conquer solar systems. The humans insult us with this, Grethmar growled. One ship. They mock our power. His second-in-command, a younger Vokrim named Kelthor, nodded. Should we destroy it quickly, Overlord? A demonstration of our might? Grethmar thought about this. His forearms crossed over his chest. No, we will let it approach. We will give it every chance to surrender. When it refuses, we will destroy it slowly. Let the galaxy watch. Let them see what happens to those who defy the Empire. The commanders roared their approval. 6 days later, long-range sensors picked up the human ship. It was approaching the Terminus Gate, where the Vokrim fleet waited. Every major news network in the galaxy trained their cameras on the scene. Trillions of beings across hundreds of worlds watched. The human ship was called the Indomitable. It was big, certainly, about 2 kilometers long, with armor plating that looked thick and sturdy, but compared to the Vokrim fleet, it looked like a toy. The smallest Vokrim destroyer was half its size, and there were hundreds of those. The massive planet cracker ships dwarfed it completely. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Han Doyan sat in his command chair. He was 45 years old, with dark hair starting to show gray at the temples. His face was calm. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. Status report, Doyun said quietly. Commander Park Ji-won, his second-in-command, checked her console. All systems green. Weapons charged. Shields at full power. Engineering reports reactor output at 105%. Good. Communications, open a channel to Earth. Let Admiral Mira know we've arrived. Channel open, sir. Doyun stood up. He looked at the view screen where the Vokrim fleet filled the entire display. 847 ships. He'd studied the reports. He knew their capabilities. He knew their tactics. He knew exactly what was about to happen. Admiral, he said, this is Captain Doyan. We have reached the Terminus Gate. The Vokrim fleet is in position. We are beginning our approach. Whatever happens next, tell Earth we did our duty. Mira's voice came back, slightly delayed by distance. Understood, Captain. The whole planet is watching. The whole galaxy is watching. Show them who we are, Doyan smiled. With pleasure, ma'am. Indomitable out, he turned to his crew. Every one of them looked back at him. Lieutenant Yoon Hyeri at weapons. Kim Taeyang at engineering. Park Ji-won at tactical. Dr. Shin Bora at her medical station. 37 more crew members at their posts. All volunteers. All ready. All right, people, Doyan said. Let's go introduce ourselves. The Indomitable began moving forward, accelerating toward the Vokrim fleet. One ship against 847. The galaxy held its breath and waited for the slaughter. The Indomitable moved through the darkness of space like a knife through water. Captain Doyan watched the view screen as the distance to the Vokrim fleet slowly decreased. They still had 4 hours until weapons range. 4 hours until everything changed. Captain, Park Ji-won said from her station, we're receiving multiple hails from news ships. They want interviews. They want to know why we're doing this. Doyan shook his head. Ignore them. We're not here to talk to reporters. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of instruments and the gentle hum of the engines. Doyan had served on 17 different ships during his career. He'd been in combat before. He'd seen friends die. He'd made the hard choices that captains have to make. But this was different. This time the whole galaxy was watching. Sir, Lieutenant Yoon Hyeri called out. She was young, only 28, but she was the best weapons officer in the fleet. All weapon systems are ready. Railguns charged. Missiles armed. Point defense grid online. Thank you, Lieutenant. Keep them ready, but don't lock onto any targets yet. Let's not start the dance too early. Down in engineering, Kim Taeyang was making his rounds. The engineering deck was hot, filled with the massive reactors that powered the ship. Taeyang was older, in his 50s, with gray hair and the kind of steady hands that came from 30 years of experience. He checked the reactor output. 105%. The reactors were running hotter than they were supposed to, but he'd built in safety margins for exactly this reason. The Indomitable wasn't like other ships. It had been designed with one purpose in mind: overwhelming firepower. Boss, one of his engineers said, the particle cannon is drawing more power than expected. Should I adjust? Taeyang looked at the readings. The particle cannon was the Indomitable's main weapon, a beast of a gun that could punch through almost anything. It was hungry for power, but that was normal. No, Taiyang said. Let it drink. We'll need every bit of juice when things get hot. Just keep an eye on the heat exchangers. Back on the bridge, Doyen was reviewing tactical data. The Vokrim fleet was arranged in a standard attack formation. Heavy ships in the front, fast destroyers on the flanks, and the planet crackers in the rear. It was a formation designed to crush any opponent through sheer weight of numbers. They're not even trying to hide their strategy, Park Ji-won observed. They think they've already won. They have 847 ships, Doyen replied. From their perspective, they have won. We're just too stubborn to realize it. Are we stubborn, sir? Or are we right? Doyen smiled. I guess we'll find out in about 3.5 hours. In the medical bay, Dr. Shin Bora was preparing for casualties. She'd set up 3 surgical stations, organized her supplies, and briefed her 2 medical assistants. She'd been a combat surgeon for 15 years. She'd seen what weapons could do to human bodies. She tried not to think about what alien weapons might do. One of her assistants, a young man named Lee Minho, looked nervous. Doctor, do you really think we can survive this? Bora looked at him. She could lie. She could give him false hope. But she respected him too much for that. I don't know, she said honestly. But I know this. Captain Doyen is the best commander I've ever served under. The crew of this ship is the best I've ever worked with. And if anyone can pull off the impossible, it's us. So we prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Understood? Minho nodded. Yes, ma'am. 3 hours until weapons range. The news broadcasts were getting more intense. Commentators from dozens of species were discussing the upcoming battle. Most of them predicted the Indomitable would be destroyed within minutes. A few thought it might last as long as half an hour. On one popular Kelton news show, a military analyst was speaking. Look at the size difference. Look at the numbers. This isn't a battle. This is an execution. I almost feel sorry for the humans. Another analyst, a Dravix, made bubbling sounds. Her translator rendered it as, perhaps humanity has secret weapons we don't know about. The first analyst ruffled his feathers dismissively. They've only had faster-than-light travel for 60 years. They're newcomers. What could they possibly have that the Vokrim haven't seen before? Doyen had the news broadcasts playing on a small screen at his station. He listened to the analysts predict his death. It didn't bother him. Let them talk. They would understand soon enough. Captain, Park Ji-won said, I'm detecting movement in the Vokrim fleet. They're adjusting their formation. Looks like they're spreading out to surround us when we arrive. Expected, Doyen said. They want to hit us from all sides at once. Overwhelming firepower from every direction. He paused. Lieutenant Yoon, do you have firing solutions for their command ships? All 12 of them, sir. Locked and ready, don't fire yet. I want to see what they do first, 2 hours until weapons range. Doyen called a ship-wide meeting over the intercom. Every crew member could hear his voice. This is the captain. In 2 hours, we're going to enter combat with a force that outnumbers us by nearly 1,000 to 1. I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to be the hardest fight any of us has ever faced. Some of us might not make it home, he paused, letting that sink in. But I want you to remember why we're here. We're not here because Earth forced us. Every person on this ship volunteered. We're here because someone needed to show the galaxy that humanity doesn't surrender. We're here because our children and their children deserve to live in a galaxy where humans are respected, not conquered. Another pause. The Vokrim think they've already won. They think we're insects waiting to be crushed. They're wrong. We're going to show them what humans are capable of. We're going to show the entire galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth. And when this is over, every species out there will think twice before testing humanity again. Doyen's voice became harder, like steel. This is our moment. This is our stand. Do your jobs. Trust your training. Trust each other. And let's send a message that will echo across the stars for 1,000 years. Indomitable out, the crew went back to work. But now there was something different in the air. A kind of electric determination. They were scared, yes. But they were ready. 1 hour until weapons range. The Vokrim fleet had finished repositioning. They formed a massive sphere, waiting for the Indomitable to fly into the center where they could attack from all directions at once. On the Vokrim flagship, Overlord Grethmar watched the human ship approach. It was moving at a steady speed, not even trying to dodge or maneuver, just coming straight at them. Arrogant, Grethmar muttered. Or stupid. Perhaps both. Should we hail them? Kelthor asked. Give them one final chance to surrender? Grethmar considered.
Yes. Let it not be said that the Empire is without mercy.
Hail the human ship. On the Indomitable, the communication officer looked up. Sir, incoming hail from the Vokrim flagship. Put it on screen. Grethmar's face appeared, filling the view screen. His eyes glowed red in the darkness of his ship. Human captain, this is your final warning. Surrender now and your crew will be taken prisoner. Resist and you will all die. There is no shame in recognizing superior force. Choose wisely. Doyen stood up from his chair. He walked toward the view screen until he was standing directly in front of Grethmar's image. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. Overlord Grethmar, this is Captain Han Doyen of the Earth Defense Force. I have a message for you and your empire. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not bow, and humanity does not forget. Grethmar's eyes narrowed. Then you choose death. No, Doyen said. We choose to fight. And when this is over, you'll wish you'd never heard the name Earth. He made a cutting motion across his throat. The communication officer cut the channel. Grethmar's face disappeared. Doyen turned back to his crew. All hands battle stations. Shields to maximum. Weapons free. Engineering, give me everything you've got. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. Crew members strapped themselves into their stations. 30 minutes until weapons range. The Indomitable continued forward, accelerating now, building speed. On the view screen, the Vokrim fleet grew larger and larger. They're powering up weapons, Park Ji-won reported. Energy signatures across the board. Let them, Doyen said. Lieutenant Yoon, prepare to fire on my command. Aye, sir. Targeting systems locked. 10 minutes. The space between the Indomitable and the Vokrim fleet shrank rapidly. News cameras zoomed in, broadcasting to billions of viewers across the galaxy. 5 minutes. Sir, Park Ji-won said quietly. It's been an honor serving with you. Doyen glanced at her. Don't talk like that, Commander. We're not dead yet. We're not even close. 1 minute. Entering weapons range in 30 seconds, the navigation officer called out. Doyen sat down in his command chair. His hands gripped the armrests. All weapons prepare to fire. Target the command ships first. 20 seconds. The crew was silent now. This was it. This was the moment everything would change. 10 seconds, Doyen took a deep breath. He thought about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests, about the cities full of people who were counting on him. 5 seconds. He thought about his daughter, who was 8 years old, who wanted to be a pilot like her daddy. Weapons range achieved. Doyen's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Fire. The Indomitable's railguns fired first. 6 massive cannons unleashed projectiles that weighed 3 tons each, accelerated to 70% of light speed. The shells were simple metal, but at that velocity they didn't need to be complicated. Physics did all the work. The first shell hit a Vokrim destroyer before anyone could even react. The projectile punched through the shields like they weren't there, tore through the hull and exited the other side. The destroyer exploded, splitting in half as its reactor breached. The second and third shells hit within milliseconds, destroying 2 more ships. Direct hits, Lieutenant Yoon Hyeri reported, her voice steady despite the adrenaline. Reloading. Next volley in 8 seconds. On the Vokrim flagship, alarms screamed. Kelthor stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 3 ships gone in the blink of an eye. How? He breathed. How did they penetrate our shields? Grethmar's 4 fists clenched. All ships, return fire. Destroy that vessel. The Vokrim fleet opened up with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic weapons converged on the Indomitable from 800 different ships. The space around the human vessel lit up like a star-going nova. The Indomitable's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the incoming fire. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields holding at 87%, Park Ji-won called out. Shield harmonics are adapting to their weapons frequencies. Excellent, Captain Doyen said calmly. Lieutenant Yoon, keep firing. Target their heavy cruisers. Let's thin out their numbers. The railguns fired again, and again. Each time a Vokrim ship died, the galaxy watched in stunned silence as the impossible happened. One human ship was fighting back against an entire fleet, and it was winning. Release missile pods, Doyen ordered. Hatches opened along the Indomitable's hull. Thousands of small missiles launched, spreading out like a swarm of angry insects. But these weren't normal missiles. As they flew toward the Vokrim fleet, they began to replicate. 1 became 2. 2 became 4. 4 became 8. What are those? A Kelthan news analyst squawked on one broadcast. Are those self-replicating weapons? Those are banned by the Galactic Convention. By the time the missiles reached the Vokrim fleet, there were over 50,000 of them. They swarmed over the Vokrim ships, attaching to hulls and detonating in synchronized patterns. Shields collapsed under the overwhelming assault. Hulls cracked and split. Dozens of ships went dark, their systems overloaded. In engineering, Kim Taeyang watched his instruments carefully. The reactors were running hot, hotter than they'd ever run before, but they were holding. He designed them to handle this kind of stress. Boss, the particle cannon is ready to fire, one of his engineers reported. Good. Tell the bridge they can use it whenever they want. The particle cannon was the Indomitable's secret weapon. It was a massive gun that ran the entire length of the ship's spine. It fired a stream of accelerated particles at near light speed. When it hit something, it didn't just destroy it. It erased it. Captain, Lieutenant Yoon said. Particle cannon charged and ready. Pick out their biggest ship, Doyen ordered. Let's make a statement. Yoon targeted one of the Planet Cracker vessels, a massive ship designed to bombard worlds into submission. It was 3 times the size of the Indomitable, covered in armor plating and shields. Target locked. Firing. The particle cannon hummed. Energy built up for 3 seconds, drawing power from both reactors. Then it released. A beam of pure destruction lanced across space. It hit the Planet Cracker's shields and simply passed through them as if they didn't exist. The beam carved through the massive ship from bow to stern, cutting it in half. Both halves exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings watched in shock. A human ship had just destroyed a planet cracker in one shot. Reload time on the particle cannon? Doyen asked. 90 seconds, sir. Then we use it every 90 seconds. Lieutenant, pick your targets carefully. Let's make each shot count. The battle raged on. The Vokrim fleet tried everything. They attempted to surround the Indomitable, but the human ship was too fast. Its engines, powered by reactors that no other species had managed to build, pushed it through space at speeds that shouldn't have been possible for a ship its size. They tried concentrated fire, focusing hundreds of weapons on single points of the shields, but the Indomitable's shields adapted. They learned from each hit, adjusting their frequency to better absorb the next attack. They tried ramming one of their ships into the human vessel. The Indomitable's point defense grid destroyed it 2 kilometers away, turning it into debris with thousands of small laser bursts. Nothing worked. Status report, Doyen ordered after 15 minutes of combat. Park Ji-won checked her displays. Shields at 62%. Minor damage to hull sections 7 and 12. All weapons still operational. Enemy fleet count, 647 ships remaining. 200 Vokrim ships destroyed. In 15 minutes, the galaxy couldn't believe what it was seeing. On the Vokrim flagship, Grethmar was losing his composure. His forearms gestured wildly as he shouted orders. Focus fire on that ship. All vessels target the same location. Break through their shields. Kelthor looked at the tactical display. They'd lost over 200 ships. The human vessel should have been destroyed 10 times over by now. Overlord, perhaps we should retreat. Regroup and analyze their technology. Retreat? Grethmar roared. The Empire does not retreat. We will crush this insect. But even as he spoke, another planet cracker exploded, cut in half by the Indomitable's particle cannon. And then another. And another. In the medical bay, Dr. Shin Bora had treated 3 crew members so far. 1 had burns from an overloading console. 2 had concussions from being thrown against bulkheads when the ship took a particularly hard hit. None of them were critical. They'd been incredibly lucky so far, but Bora knew luck didn't last forever. She kept her surgical stations ready and her supplies organized. When the real casualties came, she would be ready. Doctor, Lee Minho called out. The crew is asking for updates. They want to know how the battle is going. Bora glanced at a small screen showing the tactical display. Tell them we're winning. Tell them to keep doing their jobs. 20 minutes into the battle, the Vokrim tried a new tactic. They sent their fastest destroyers on suicide runs, trying to overwhelm the Indomitable's point defense. With sheer numbers, it didn't work. The Indomitable's point defense grid was controlled by an advanced AI that could track and target thousands of objects simultaneously. Every destroyer that came close was shredded by laser fire. Debris fields began to form around the human ship, creating a protective barrier of wrecked Vokrim vessels. They're getting desperate, Park Ji-won observed. Good, Do-yun replied. Desperate enemies make mistakes. Weapons target their flagship. It's time to cut off the head of this snake. Lieutenant Yoon adjusted her targeting. The Vokrim flagship was heavily defended, surrounded by destroyer escorts and protected by multiple shield generators. Sir, the flagship has triple-layered shields. Even the particle cannon might not punch through in one shot. Then we soften it up first. Fire a full spread of missiles at the escorts. Clear us a path. Missiles launched, arcing through space toward the destroyer screen. The Vokrim ships tried to intercept them, but the self-replicating swarm was too numerous. Explosions blossomed as destroyers died. Path is clear, Yoon reported. Particle cannon ready. Fire! The beam lanced out, hitting the flagship's shields. The outer layer collapsed immediately. The second layer held for 3 seconds before failing. The third layer flickered and died. The particle beam struck the flagship's hull, carving a massive wound across its surface. Atmosphere vented into space. Secondary explosions rippled through the ship, but it didn't die. The flagship was too big, too heavily armored. Damage assessment? Do-yun asked. Significant damage to their command and control systems. They're still operational, but barely. Then finish it. Railguns fire all cannons. Concentrated fire on the damaged section. 6 railgun shells, each moving at 70% of light speed, struck the Vokrim flagship in rapid succession. The armor crumpled. The hull split. The massive ship broke apart, its reactor going critical. Overlord Grethmar died without understanding how he'd lost. With their flagship destroyed, the Vokrim fleet began to fall apart. Ship captains, no longer receiving orders, started making their own decisions. Some tried to continue the fight. Others broke formation and ran. Enemy fleet is in disarray, Park Ji-won reported. They're losing cohesion, Do-yun stood up. Open a channel. All Vokrim vessels, all frequencies. Channel open, sir. Do-yun's voice broadcast across the battlefield. This is Captain Han Do-yun of the Earth Defense Force. Your overlord is dead. Your flagship is destroyed. You have lost over 400 ships. You cannot win this battle. He paused, letting that sink in. I am offering you one chance. Withdraw now. Leave this system. Return to your empire and tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity will not be conquered. Tell them that humanity will not bow. Tell them that if they come for Earth again, we will not send one ship. We will send a fleet that will burn every Vokrim world to ash. Another pause. You have 60 seconds to begin your withdrawal. Any ship still in weapons range after that will be destroyed. Choose wisely. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 43 species were all talking at once, their voices mixing into an incomprehensible noise. Holographic displays showed the aftermath of the battle, debris fields where Vokrim ships used to be, the retreating remnants of their fleet, and in the center of it all, one human ship damaged but intact. Council Speaker Velthar raised multiple tentacles calling for order. The noise gradually died down. Ambassador Daehyun, Velthar's voice carried an edge that wasn't there before. I believe you have some explaining to do. Daehyun stood calmly in the center of the chamber. He'd been expecting this. The galaxy had just watched humanity break 17 different galactic conventions on weapons development. They had questions. They had fears. He was here to provide answers. What would you like to know? Daehyun asked. A Dravix delegate bubbled forward. Those weapons. Self-replicating missiles. Particle cannons. Railguns firing at relativistic speeds. All of these violate the Treaty of Kelmar. All of these are banned technologies. Banned by whom? Daehyun asked calmly. Humanity never signed the Treaty of Kelmar. We arrived in this galaxy 60 years ago to find rules already in place. Rules we never agreed to follow. The Dravix's eye stalks waved in agitation. But the treaty exists for good reason. These weapons are too dangerous. They destabilize galactic peace. The Vokrim Empire destabilized galactic peace, Daehyun replied. They conquered 40 systems. They enslaved billions. They threatened Earth with extinction. Where was the Galactic Council then? Where was this concern for peace when the Vokrim were cracking planets? Silence. A Kelthan representative ruffled his feathers. We tried diplomatic solutions, which failed, Daehyun said flatly. The Vokrim only understand strength, so we showed them strength. Would you prefer we had surrendered? Would you prefer humanity was now just another conquered species? Velthar spoke again. Ambassador, please understand our concern. Your species has hidden these capabilities for 60 years. You've been building weapons in secret while claiming to be peaceful explorers. How can we trust you? Daehyun looked around the chamber. Let me tell you a story about humanity. Before we reached the stars, we spent 10,000 years fighting each other. Wars over land, resources, beliefs, pride. We built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We came close to using them several times. He paused, making sure everyone was listening. We learned something from all that violence. We learned that peace only exists when everyone knows the cost of war. We learned that the best way to avoid fighting is to make sure everyone knows you can win if they force you to fight. A crystalline vesh flashed patterns of light. Its translator rendered the message. You believe in deterrence through overwhelming force? Yes, Daehyun said. When we entered this galaxy, we saw the Vakrim conquering their neighbors. We saw other empires doing the same. We realized that this galaxy respects strength, so we decided to be strong enough that nobody would test us. But you only sent one ship, another delegate protested. Exactly, Daehyun said. One ship was enough. We didn't need to send a fleet. We didn't need to threaten anyone. We just needed to prove that if someone forced us to fight, we had the capability to win. That was the message. Velthar was quiet for a moment. Ambassador, I must ask, how many ships like the Indomitable does Earth have? Daehyun smiled slightly. That's classified information. But I'll tell you this, the Indomitable is not our most powerful ship. It's not even in our top 5. The chamber erupted again. Fear and concern spread through the delegates like wildfire. This is madness, someone shouted. This is an arms race waiting to happen, another delegate cried. Daehyun raised his hand for silence. Listen to me. Humanity does not want to conquer anyone. We don't want your worlds. We don't want your resources. We just want to be left alone to grow and prosper in peace. But if you threaten us, his voice hardened, if you try to conquer us, enslave us, or destroy us, we will respond with everything we have. And I promise you nobody wants to see what everything looks like. On the Indomitable, Captain Doyen was conducting damage assessment. The ship had taken a beating. 40% of the armor plating was damaged or destroyed. Shield generators needed repairs. Several weapon systems were offline, but they'd survived. Against impossible odds, they'd survived. Final casualty report, Doyun said quietly. Dr. Shin Bora appeared on his screen. Her face was tired but calm. 17 dead, Captain. 23 injured, 8 seriously. We did everything we could for the ones we lost. Doyun closed his eyes for a moment. 17 crew members. 17 people who'd volunteered for this mission knowing they might not come home. 17 families who would receive notification soon. Thank you, Doctor. Make sure the injured get the best care and prepare the deceased for transport home. They deserve to be buried on Earth. Yes, sir. After Bora disconnected, Doyen sat alone in his ready room. He pulled up the personnel files of the 17 who'd died. He read each name, looked at each face. They'd been young and old, experienced and new. All of them had been brave. Commander Park Ji-won entered without knocking. She knew when the captain needed company. The crew is asking about going home, she said softly. We're not going home yet, Doyen replied. We need to finish repairs first. Make sure the ship can survive the journey. That'll take at least 3 days. The crew understands. They want to see their families. It was a hard fight. I know. Doyen looked at the star chart on his wall. Earth was weeks away at their current speed. Tell them we'll head home as soon as the ship is ready. And tell them they did good. They did really good. Park Ji-won nodded and left. 3 days later, news of the battle had spread to every corner of the galaxy. It was the only thing anyone talked about. The impossible victory. The human ship that fought 1,001. But the news wasn't all positive. Some species were scared. If humanity had been hiding weapons like this, what else were they hiding? If one human ship could destroy a Vakrim fleet, what could 100 human ships do? Ambassador Daehyun spent those 3 days in constant meetings with council delegates. He answered questions. He calmed fears. He tried to make them understand. On the 3rd day, the Vakrim Empire sent a representative to the council. It was a younger Vakrim named Harkin, not one of the military commanders, but a diplomat. The Empire wishes to negotiate, Harkin said formally. We recognize that we underestimated humanity. We wish to establish peaceful relations. Daehyun studied the Vakrim carefully. Your empire threatened to conquer Earth. Your fleet attacked us. Now you want peace because we proved we can fight back? Yes, Harkin said simply. That is how our culture works. We respect strength. You have shown strength, therefore you have earned respect. What about the 40 systems you conquered? The billions you enslaved? Harkin's scales rippled uncomfortably. Those matters are complicated, but the Empire is willing to discuss reparations and territorial adjustments. Daehyun glanced at Velthar. The council speaker nodded slightly, encouraging him to continue. Very well, Daehyun said. Earth is willing to negotiate. But understand this. If the Vokrim Empire breaks any agreement we make, if you threaten humanity or our allies again, we will not send one ship next time. We will send enough ships to end your empire permanently. Is that clear? Harkin's eyes glowed dimly. Very clear, Ambassador. While the diplomats talked, the Indomitable completed its repairs. Kim Taeyang and his engineering team worked around the clock, fixing damaged systems and replacing destroyed armor plating. The ship would never be at 100% again, not without a full overhaul at Earth shipyards. But it was ready to travel. On the bridge, Captain Doyen gave the order. Set course for Earth, maximum safe speed. Let's go home, the crew cheered. It wasn't loud or boisterous. They were too tired for that. But it was genuine. They were going home. As the Indomitable began its journey, Admiral Kang Mira broadcast a message from Earth. It played on every screen on the ship. Crew of the Indomitable, this is Admiral Mira. On behalf of Earth, on behalf of humanity, I want to say thank you. You faced impossible odds. You fought with courage and skill. You showed the galaxy who we are, she paused. 17 of your crew members gave their lives in this battle. We will never forget them. We will honor them, and we will make sure their sacrifice meant something. Another pause. You're coming home to a planet that's proud of you, to a species that's grateful for what you've done. Rest well, you've earned it. Safe travels, the message ended. The crew sat quietly, processing everything that had happened. Lieutenant Yoon Hyeri spoke softly. Do you think we changed anything, Captain? Or will there just be another empire, another threat? Doyen considered the question. I think we bought time. Maybe 100 years. Maybe more. Time for humanity to grow stronger. Time for the galaxy to understand that we're not easy prey. And when the next threat comes, then we'll deal with it. That's what humanity does. We face the threats. We adapt, we survive. We've been the Indomitable, traveled through space. A scarred but victorious ship carrying a tired but proud crew. Behind them, the galaxy was changing. Empires were reassessing their strategies. Species were reconsidering. The journey home took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of traveling through the empty spaces between stars. 3 weeks for the crew to rest, to heal, to process what they'd been through. Captain Doyen spent much of that time writing letters. 17 letters to 17 families. Each one was personal. He told them about their loved ones, about their bravery, about how they died protecting Earth. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done. On Earth, the world was celebrating. Streets filled with crowds. Buildings displayed holographic images of the Indomitable. Children played with toy versions of the ship. News channels showed the battle footage over and over again, but not everyone was celebrating. In a quiet suburb outside Seoul, a woman named Yoon Mirai sat in her living room staring at her phone. Her son, Lieutenant Yoon Hyeri, was on that ship. She hadn't heard from her in 3 weeks. The news said the ship was coming home. The news said they'd won. But the news didn't tell her if her daughter was alive. When the Indomitable finally entered Earth's solar system, they were greeted by a fleet of escort ships. Destroyers and cruisers formed an honor guard, accompanying the battle-scarred vessel home. Admiral Kang Mira was waiting at the orbital station. She stood in the docking bay, her uniform pressed and perfect, her face showing no emotion. But inside she felt relief. They'd made it. They'd actually made it. The Indomitable docked with a gentle thud. The airlock opened. Captain Doyen was the first one out, followed by his crew. Mira saluted. Welcome home, Captain. Doyen returned the salute. Thank you, Admiral. Permission to report? Permission granted. Mission complete. The Vokrim fleet has been defeated. Earth is safe. 17 crew members killed in action. 23 wounded. The ship sustained 40% damage but remained operational throughout. Mira nodded. You did well, Captain. You all did well. The whole planet is proud of you. But Doyen didn't smile. Ma'am, we need to talk privately. They moved to a conference room. Just the two of them. What's on your mind? Mira asked. Doyen sat down heavily. He looked tired. We won, Admiral. We sent one ship against 800 and we won. But it cost us. 17 people died. 23 more were injured. And we got lucky. If the Vokrim had been better coordinated, if they'd been smarter about their tactics, we might have lost. But you didn't lose. This time. But what about next time? What happens when another empire decides to test us? What happens when they send 2,000 ships instead of 800? Mira was silent for a moment. That's why we're building more ships. The Invincible will be ready in 6 months. 2 more Everest-class dreadnoughts after that. We're expanding the fleet. It's not enough, Doyen said. We proved we can fight. But we also showed them our weapons. They'll adapt. They'll develop counters. We need to stay ahead. I know. Trust me, I know. Mira rubbed her temples. We're working on it. New weapons programs. Better shields. Faster engines. But these things take time. Time is something we might not have. They sat in silence, both thinking about the future. While the military leaders discussed strategy, the rest of the crew was reuniting with their families. The docking bay was full of people hugging, crying, laughing. Lieutenant Yoon Hyeri found her mother in the crowd. Mirai was crying, holding her daughter tight. I thought maybe... Mirai couldn't finish the sentence. I'm okay, Mom, I'm okay. I watched the battle. I saw the explosions. I saw ships being destroyed. I was so scared. Hyeri pulled back and looked at her mother. I was scared too. But I had a job to do. And I did it. Not everyone had happy reunions. In a corner of the docking bay, Dr. Shin Bora was talking to families of the deceased. She explained how their loved ones died. Quickly, she told them. Without pain. She lied about the last part, but some lies were kind. One family was particularly hard. The parents of a young engineer named Park Soon-ho. He'd been 23 years old. He'd died when a Vokrim plasma torpedo breached the hull near engineering. Kim Tae-young had held him as he died. He talked about you at the end, Bora said softly. He said to tell you he loved you. He said he was glad he could protect Earth. Protect you. The mother collapsed, sobbing. The father held her, his own tears falling silently. Bora stayed with them until other family members arrived. It was the least she could do. 2 days after their return, there was a ceremony, a memorial for the 17 who died. It was held at Arlington National Cemetery, expanded decades ago to include space combat casualties. The President of Earth attended. So did Admiral Mira and the entire crew of the Indomitable. So did thousands of civilians who came to pay their respects. Captain Doyen gave the eulogy. He spoke about each person who died, their names, their backgrounds, their dreams. He made sure everyone knew they weren't just numbers. They were people. They mattered. These 17 volunteered for a mission they knew might kill them, Doyen said. They could have stayed home. They could have let someone else fight. But they stepped forward. They put themselves between Earth and harm, and they paid the ultimate price. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. We won the battle. Earth is safe. Humanity has a future. Because of them. Because of their sacrifice. We must never forget that. We must never take it for granted. And we must make sure their deaths meant something. The ceremony ended with a 21-gun salute. The families were given medals. It didn't bring their loved ones back, but it was something. 3 days after the ceremony, Ambassador Choi Dae-hyun returned to Earth. He'd stayed at the Galactic Council to finalize the treaty with the Vokrim Empire. The treaty was simple. The Vokrim would withdraw from 10 of their conquered systems. They would pay reparations to the species they'd enslaved. They would establish diplomatic relations with Earth. And most importantly, they would never threaten humanity again. They agreed to everything? Mira asked, reviewing the document. They had no choice, Dae-hyun replied. After what happened, they're terrified of us. Half the galaxy is terrified of us. The other half wants to be our allies. Is that good or bad? Both. It means we're safe for now. But it also means we're isolated. Nobody trusts us completely. They all think we're hiding more weapons, more secrets. We are, Mira pointed out. I know, but it makes diplomacy difficult. They discussed the political situation for another hour. Then Dae-hyun asked the question that had been bothering him. Mira, do you ever wonder if we did the right thing? Building these weapons? Hiding our strength? Starting this arms race? Mira looked out the window at Earth below. Blue oceans. Green continents. 7 billion people living their lives, unaware of how close they'd come to extinction. I don't know if it was right, she said finally, but it was necessary. The galaxy doesn't reward weakness. It rewards strength. We chose to be strong, and because of that choice, Earth is still free. At what cost? That's the question, isn't it? We'll spend the rest of our lives trying to answer it. 6 months later, the Invincible was launched. It was bigger than the Indomitable, with more weapons and stronger shields. The crew was made up of veterans from the Battle of Terminus Gate and new recruits eager to prove themselves. Captain Han Doyen was offered command. He turned it down. One battle had been enough for him. Instead, he accepted a position at the Naval Academy, teaching the next generation of commanders. Commander Park Ji-won took command of the Invincible. She was nervous but determined. She'd learned from Doyen. She knew what to do. On the day of the launch, Doyen stood in the observation deck watching his former second-in-command take a ship into space. He felt pride and a little bit of sadness. "You taught her well," a voice said beside him. He turned to see Admiral Mira. She'd aged in the past 6 months. More gray in her hair, more lines on her face. "She'll do fine," Doyen said. "Better than I did, probably." "You saved humanity." That's a hard act to follow. They watched the Invincible accelerate away from Earth, heading out to patrol the borders of human space. "Do you think there'll be another war?" Doyen asked. "Eventually. There's always another war. But hopefully not for a while. Hopefully what we did bought enough time. Time for what? For humanity to grow. To get stronger. To spread across more systems. So that next time someone threatens us, we don't need to send 1 ship or 2 ships. We can send a fleet that makes the Vakrim Armada look small." Doyen nodded. "Deterrence through overwhelming force. It's the only language the galaxy understands." They stood in silence, watching the stars. Across the galaxy, things were changing. The Vakrim Empire, humbled by their defeat, was reforming. They were becoming less aggressive, more diplomatic. Other empires watched and learned. Maybe humanity wasn't a species to be trifled with. The Galactic Council invited Earth to become a permanent member. Ambassador Daehyun accepted. It meant more responsibilities, more politics, more complications, but it also meant humanity had a voice in galactic affairs. On planets across the galaxy, the story of the Battle of Terminus Gate became legend, a story told to young warriors, a reminder that numbers didn't always win, that determination and courage and superior weapons could overcome any odds on Earth. Life slowly returned to normal. The celebrations ended. The crowds dispersed. People went back to their jobs, their schools, their families. But something had changed. There was a new confidence in the air, a sense that humanity belonged in the galaxy, that they could stand alongside any species and not be afraid.